first thing I want to talk to you about is how you met your husband.
Oh, that was the
When you
most wonderful thing.
okay, and
Um,
tell me about it.
that was March 13th, 1960. Oh, my friend from my hometown was my husband's pastor about 25 miles away. And on Valentine's Day, Bill and Doris saw me come out to play for a wedding. And they said, you know, she would be a good wife for Burdell. And so they said, let's talk to her after church. And they told me, they said, the bad thing about it, though, it may scare you off, is he has 3 small daughters. He was a widower. They had lost their mother the year before. And I said, oh no, I was looking for somebody with 5. So they said, we will bring him to church next Sunday night, and we will be sitting on the back row. I was playing the organ, and my little friend, Lady Earl Jones, I said to her, Lady Earl, look back there and see that man that is with Bill and Doris. She said, he's cute. I said, no, look again. She said, he is cute. I looked back there, and you couldn't stop me. I ran straight to the back of church. It was like some enchanted evening. You will see a stranger across a crowded room. Well, I didn't even remember what his name was. But we decided to walk on out and we would go have chocolate pie and coffee. He said, let's go get that coffee, D-A-T, coffee. He and I left the church and left Bill in charge there. He escorted me across the churchyard, and as we stepped down the curb, he took my left elbow in his hand. I fell in love with him that minute. And all these years later, I love him and want to honor him with everything that I do. I love that little, I always needed some extra money because my father had died when he was 40 years old, and I wanted to help my mama, had 3 younger siblings. So one of the jobs I had was working for the Augusta Chronicle, the Barnwell People Sentinel, and several other local newspapers, including the State, the T&D, and even the News and Courier. I don't think I had many in the State or News and Courier, but and those some of those stories in the Barnwell paper would be things like Mr. and Mrs. A.J. Jones journeyed to Charleston to visit relatives. But then I wrote some pretty interesting feature stories, and I thoroughly enjoyed that job until I got married. So that was wonderful fun.
And in those days, there weren't many women who were actually working for newspapers. Were you one of the few women that you knew who actually wrote stories for a newspaper?
I knew Joyce Milky real well, and I always wanted her to write about me, but she never would.
Is there a big story, what we call breaking news today? Do you remember?
One time, a good friend of mine robbed a bank in Blackville. That was the biggest news. He built houses for a company that I worked for, and one Saturday, banks were still open on Saturdays until 2 o'clock, and he couldn't make the payroll because the man he was working for didn't pay him, and he just wanted to borrow the money from the Blackville Bank and pay his people off, and he kept telling them that he would pay them back on Monday, but they didn't buy that. So he hauled off, and 12 men went in pursuit of him. He never got to spend 1 penny. He was a really nice guy. He really was. And, I mean, that seemed, his best friend was the chief of police in Blackville. But 12 men went out toward Healing Springs, and Coke, his name was Coke, but that wasn't cocaine. And he didn't get to spend $1 of it. He was apprehended by 12 men, and they had to share the reward. And that was the biggest thing that ever happened in Blackmore.
Oh,